Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whatever time zone you may be in. This is Off the Grid Podcast with Aiden and Jared.
You know, authorized access to the truth. And this is part 2 about
Malaysia Flight 370 podcast. And
we're going to talk about it in part 1.
We talked about basically the background story of Flight 370, giving the details of, what the flight actually is.
Yeah.
And, what the people on the plane comprised of, like from different countries.
And its supposed course and like the radar
and we talked about what we know for sure about it. And then we talked about like how the departure went and
the takeoff and all that.
Yeah, the communication that was lost. And Aiden talked about the radar.
Yep. But Jared, how can you find our podcast in case they don't know?
Yeah, you can find our podcasts on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to either one of those channels to be notified for future content. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Also, be sure to leave us a comment on our YouTube channel or rate us on Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions or suggestions for future podcasts, you can email us at offthegridpodcast@gmail.com. If you share our podcast, that will really help our channel grow.
Yes, it will. All right, so part 2, here we go.
Oh,
right,
yeah. All right, so where did I leave off?
Okay, so these theories. They're all a lot of theories.
Yeah, and
some of them are out of this world, and some of them are grounded in reality. So, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So, let's start off with the craziness here.
Yeah. First of all, this theory was one that you and me kind of came up with, right?
Yeah, it's one that we were discussing this one over the phone.
Yeah.
And
when planning this podcast.
Yeah, so we it kind of progressed from not really being a believable theory to more of a believable
this could be possible,
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's that
so
it's gonna sound so.
You're going to laugh when I say it, but aliens controlled the destiny of Flight 370.
Basically, alien abduction.
Yeah. And if you look back in history, alien abductions happened a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of them happened during the 50s and 60s, so mid-1900s. But my theory and Aiden's is that the aliens, or of whatever species we don't know, has gotten interested in different aspects of our lives.
Yeah, like
because the last time they really, I'm sure if there is actually aliens out there.
There absolutely has to be.
Yeah.
There absolutely has to be. And there has to be intelligent life too, so I mean, there's no reason why there couldn't be.
Yeah.
Absolutely no reason.
So if there was in fact alien interference with this flight, then we think that it possibly could have been that they were getting interested in what was going, like, just the way of our lives of today.
The way our society functions, basically, yeah.
Like, why did they hop on this flight, for example? Why would they fly on this plane?
Why would they go to this land? Why would they go to...
Yeah, why do they go to other countries? What's the need for it?
Yeah.
Or something like that. But, like, if you look in the 1950s and 60s, the reports that you hear from that time is kind of very simple abductions.
Yeah, very simple.
Like, you're talking...
No more than 4 people, actually, first of all.
At a time, you're talking?
In the craft, and Yeah. And the most famous case of alien abduction, Betty and Bonnie Hill, those are only 2 people.
Mm-hmm. So
to go from that to maybe Flight 370 was an alien incident, going from only 2 people to about 239. That's a big jump, which means it have to be a pretty big ship,
Yeah.
And mine and Jared's theory also said that they took the people but not the plane.
Yeah.
The people were sucked out but not the plane, so the plane crashed.
That's why there's been reports of, or has been proven that there's pieces of the plane recovered.
Yeah, because they didn't care about the plane.
Yeah, they got the people.
Yeah.
But it very well could be an alien abduction. I mean, we've seen this happen in...
This isn't the weirdest thing.
Huh?
This isn't the weirdest theory out there.
No, there's a lot of other weird theories.
There's theories that Flight 370 was hit with a particle accelerator, and it created a black hole. So, I mean, that's the weirdest theory.
Yeah, that's... Even I think that's a little far-fetched, the particle accelerator.
They say the sun did it. I mean...
Yeah. So, that aliens controlled the destiny of Flight 370. This one is an interesting one in the fact that it's an unknown one, and it's something that you can't exactly prove.
And I almost forgot this. This is a good point, because when we were talking on the phone, I told you this. Mm-hmm. I told the flight turns, right?
Right.
It makes a beeline as if it's heading towards something.
Right.
So that would have to mean what? That the pilots were
distracted by something or trying to avoid something.
Yeah.
Like, what if they actually saw the spacecraft and they like almost ran into it or something?
Yeah.
Like, it was on like the spacecraft was on the same like level as the plane, and they're like, oh crap, and they're like trying to avoid hitting it.
That's what the White Owl would have showed. And like you said, Jared, when we were talking on the phone, also aliens are so much more advanced than us, so of course they wouldn't show up on radar. They can find a way to cloak themselves,
Yeah, they can cloak the plane too.
Yeah,
the plane was probably still airborne when it went out of
abducted.
When it went out of control of viewing of the radar.
Yeah.
So
when it went out of the White Owl's boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know. It could still been flying at the time. It didn't mean that it was crashed into the ocean or something.
Which means, here's another thing. If it was aliens, don't they? Why go for a flight? Why go for a?
I know, but a lot of questions go back to why would you abduct someone from their house sleeping in bed?
That's like exactly what you said to me. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
What did they do to you?
Yeah. Like, wow. Okay, I'm so interesting. You're gonna abduct me while I'm sleeping. It's just okay. What am I so interested?
I'm fat and I just ate burgers. Why do you want to abduct me? What?
Yeah, like what did I do?
Other than maybe you want my burger, but I don't know it. I mean, yeah, it's weird because it's like also. Where are the people now if they were abducted? Are they still on the ship? Are they, in different places across the globe now? Are they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we don't know the names of these people. Or at least they haven't revealed them to us.
Yeah. Because the abductions, like we said, went from simple to more complex. At least that's what I'm thinking. Because,
dude, that's been proven.
Yeah.
In research, it has.
Yeah, and think about who was on the flight. There's people from all sorts of countries on this flight.
They can give us they can give the aliens a bunch of information about the Earth.
Yeah, because they have different culture mixes on the plane.
Yep.
And they're able to examine all of them at the same time instead of going to different countries and picking them out.
That's a smart tactic too.
Yeah. Yeah. So who knows? I mean, that could be a big possibility there.
What is another theory?
Obviously, if you don't believe in aliens, then don't even toss that out the window.
Disregard everything we just said.
So I think the next one we should talk about, because it's not on here.
Yeah.
The next one we were talking about how they're actually still alive.
Yeah.
The plane.
Yes. So
the theory that Aiden and I were tossing around when we were on the phone. We were talking about how.
It might have crashed in the
where
jungle.
Was it? What country was it over that we thought it crashed?
The Cambodian jungle.
Yeah, the Cambodian jungle. I can't even talk.
Or we even thought of on an island, like in the show Lost.
Yeah.
If you ever seen Lost, you'll get our reference here, but because it was about a plane crash. Awesome show, Jared. I recommend you watch it if you haven't.
I think I've seen a little bit about it.
But anyway, either in the Cambodian jungle, or we think it might have crashed on an island.
Yeah. Now. I think they would be a lot safer if they crashed on an island than the Cambodian jungle with all those trees around. Because the plane, can you imagine the plane going down and just like the wings would fly off and
oh my gosh.
What if you go head straight on into multiple trees, boom, 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 it would kill everybody on the plane. But, I mean, it's possible that the plane could have crashed in the Cambodian jungle and everyone is still alive, or there's some people dead, some people alive.
Yeah.
And, them trying to survive together in the jungle, they don't know where they're at.
What would you do? Would you stay in the plane and make a camp around the plane, or would you just make your own camp? Like go out in the jungle and make your own camp,
Well, they probably have a limited supply of food.
They probably have parts of the plane for walls. I mean, that's why
Yeah, they probably use parts of the plane to survive to build a shelter.
Mm-hmm.
But you would think that eventually at some point that the people would move away from that area and start going to civilization.
And why would they not try to mess with the black box or try to send a signal through the plane and something,
Yeah.
Because that's another thing we were talking about. Is that 5 years later the electricity on the plane probably went out.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have the ability to contact anybody.
Yeah.
And also we don't even know if the plane lost all of its electronic capabilities when it crashed. Because
maybe it was EMP'd. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, EMP'd and then it crashed in the...
I don't know. I wasn't saying that.
Okay.
I was just saying, it crashed and a lot of the electronic equipment got damaged and, since
when it hit,
and it lost the fuel, so no power to the plane.
What do you mean? Is all the equipment literally, got like whipped out of the plane itself and went flying. Okay.
Yeah, we don't
All that
know.
stuff,
There could
yeah.
have been a hole ripped in the plane, and
Yeah.
things were going flying out.
The plane
People
broken in
flying out
half.
the window. I mean,
Yeah. Like in World War Z.
yeah,
Like, just oh my gosh.
yeah. We even mentioned that over the phone too.
Mhm.
But yeah. So it's horrible to think about that type of things, but it's wishful thinking, hoping that they're still alive.
Can I
But
just say before we continue with another theory, I don't even know how the families can cope with this. Like, them not getting any information about this at all.
I can't imagine being like a family member and you're all of a sudden you think that they're gonna come home. You're
Yeah.
ready to go to the airport to pick them up.
That's a normal trip,
They're
A normal
probably
business trip.
probably a lot of these family members were waiting at the airport for them.
Yeah.
And they're like, "When's the plane gonna arrive? It was supposed to arrive an hour ago."
Yeah.
And it's
And then they find out it never did.
Yep. I mean, what do you do after that? I mean, how do you go about your day, the rest of your day
Knowing
like
that
that?
your
That's
son,
that's
daughter,
horrible.
or husband, or wife was on that plane. Oh my gosh,
It's unbelievable to think about that. I can't quite grasp it.
And I'm kind of mad at the I mean, I know that the people are searching, doing their hardest, but like with today's technology, come on,
You would
like
think.
seriously, we have enough technology to search the deepest part of the ocean. You can go into freaking space, but we can't find a plane. Are you
And the
serious?
thing is, you had 11 countries
11.
that were 11 countries that were searching for this flight, and nobody could find it. Does
We
that
found
make
a
any
couple
sense to
debris
you?
and that's it.
Huh?
We found a couple debris and that's it. A couple debris from the plane.
Yeah.
And seriously? Now there was a report that this might not be from Flight 70, but I did tell you that report that someone found a suitcase at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, but
You know,
that could be from anything.
That could be
really.
from any flight.
That
yeah.
could be from a boat, even like
Oh,
somebody tossed their
yeah,
luggage
yeah.
over and it
Because
sank.
they got mad or
So-
something. Yeah, not mad, but
Like
there was a fish
accidentally
tugging.
dropped
there was
out
a
of
fish
his
tugging,
hands or
There was
something.
a fish tugging. And
I don't know about that, but maybe.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
Seriously though, yeah. I mean, I just thought I'd mention that because that is interesting to note. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just 11 countries and they can't find a plane. And again, it's not a small single engine, hydroplane. This is a full size jumbo jet. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
full
not-
size Boeing 777.
You're not looking for a little biplane or something.
no, it's huge. How did something like that just go missing?
Yeah.
You had to the guys in the ATC room and to the pilots. You had one job. You had one job.
Yeah, and there's been reports
That's
that
true. You had one job. I mean, seriously, to track this plane and make sure that happened.
and they weren't tracking it close enough, were they? Because we watched a video on that,
Yeah.
and they were supposedly looking away from the radar at
Looking
certain
at-
times,
Yep.
and
They
supposedly
were getting
from
their coffee.
yes
something.
or whatever, and supposedly the plane went missing for 20 minutes before they even noticed. 20
Yeah.
minutes? What were you doing for
What
20
were you doing
minutes?
for exactly. What
Were
the
you
heck
taking
were
a
you
poop
doing?
on the toilet? I mean,
Well,
come on, guys.
Were you texting?
You
Or
know,
what
like
are you doing?
on Twitter, on Facebook, what?
What the heck? You're supposed to be going to people's lives.
Listen, okay, I understand like you going and being in an office and doing like paperwork and
Yeah.
stuff and looking on your phone a little bit, but if
But
you're
this is
supposed to be air
engaging-
traffic controller,
This
you
is an
cannot be
engaging
on that.
activity. This is an activity that
This is
that
important
gets you
stuff.
into it. That gets you into it. You're not just sitting typing on a computer. You get to do a lot of things. So I mean,
If you're a police officer and you're doing a stakeout and you're like on Twitter or something, just
you're
looking
gonna
at
get shot,
memes,
first of all.
and yeah, like and you, what if the robber or something runs past your cruiser
Past you,
and
and
you were
you're like-
trying to get him? How are you supposed to get him if you're looking at your phone?
You wouldn't even see him.
Yeah. So
Where the heck is he? Oh, I missed him. I'm
Ah,
all gone then.
did he pass yet?
Did he pass? Yeah.
So what's
Oh,
another
that's
one
awesome.
of the theories, Aiden?
This one's more realistic.
Yeah.
This
This is one that's happened before on other
Yeah.
flights.
that actually we know where the heck they are.
Yeah.
This one was that it crashed because everyone on the plane got hypoxia. Which, if you don't know what hypoxia is a lack of oxygen to the lungs that isn't enough to sustain cognate thoughts. And those hypoxia obviously would have taken over the pilots.
Mhm.
So basically, it's the equivalent of being high, basically.
Yeah.
And you
'cause-
can't be high and fly a plane. That's not normal.
and wasn't that in the Incredibles movie, the
I was
last
gonna say,
one?
yeah.
Yeah, I was
They
just
had a
thinking
mask
about
on.
that.
Yeah, a lot of people
Yeah,
had
with
masks
Miss
on,
Incredible, and she was on the plane, and she was going like kind of crazy, like loony.
Yeah,
you know,
but the
'cause she's
pilot had a mask
running out of
on and
oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And according to airspace.mag.com, hypoxia happens when airplanes lose pressurization, and that can happen for a variety of reasons. It can be triggered by an electrical problem or some mechanical difficulty, which is funny, because Flight 370 had no previous mechanical incidents.
Which
Remember.
does not mean that something couldn't go wrong, though.
No, but it had no incidents before then. So, I mean, track work good, you know? I mean, you wouldn't expect something to happen. So anyway, continuing here. Pilots sometimes fail to turn the pressurization on at the beginning of a flight. But even when the pressurization is working as it should, there's no way to keep a plane pressurized if there was a hole in the fuselage, or if leaks at the seals of doorways, windows, or drains from the galley and bathrooms allow the denser air to escape. But wouldn't you check that before you take off? I mean, you know?
Usually they, like, when you get on a plane, you're sitting, the reason, if you ever flown on a plane, you'll be at an airport, which Aiden, you haven't.
But the rest of my family has.
Yeah.
So I don't.
So, it takes a little while to fly on a plane. Like, you don't just jump on the plane and then they go, and then start pulling out and get off on the runway. They have to, you usually board the plane, you sit there for, sometimes 15 minutes.
Sometimes it gets delayed in a half hour.
Yeah, depending on, like, oh, there's another plane on the runway, we can't take off right now, we gotta wait for them to move out of the way. Yeah. Sometimes we've even had to wait in line on the runway for planes to take off. I mean, sometimes it's so much congestion with flights leaving.
Chicago O'Hare is a big airport that gets congested a lot because that's one of the biggest and most used airports in the U.S. So Chicago O'Hare gets pretty. You've obviously heard of that airport. Yeah, that airport gets pretty freaking busy. I've heard. So
yeah, but you could be sitting on the plane waiting, and you're like, okay, what is taking so long?
Right.
Well, there's several things they have to do. They have to, and they'll announce it over the thing too. Like the crew members will be like.
This your captain speaking.
Well, they'll be like checking, or they'll say like checking something, and they make the crew members go around, check the inside of the plane, do different things, and the pilot even walks on the outside of the plane, walks around and check
to make sure that everything's sealed.
Because normally they know what they're looking for.
Yeah,
and grounds crew that's working down there, that direct the plane when they're taking off, the people with the lights and stuff.
And the person that brings the tunnel to the plane. Which, that's pretty cool that the tunnel actually has to be brought to the plane. That's kind of cool.
Because, the tunnel thing moves out so then the people can get on. Yeah. It's kind of weird because when you step on the plane, you can see the gap between the tunnel and the plane. It's like, ooh.
If you're a freaking ant, man, you'd slip through it.
But you wouldn't really... But you wouldn't really hurt yourself, though, because you're an ant, so you'd land lightly. You wouldn't like... Poof,
no, and an ant-man, he cracks the...
If you're a hippo and you're falling from the thing, you'd be like, boom!
No, you bring the whole plane down with you.
Yeah, or you're the Hulk and you're falling. You just
pull the plane down with you. Gosh darn it!
And Ant-Man landed first, and then the Hulk landed on top.
Can you get your ass off me, please?
Get your green.
Get your big green ass off me, sir.
Okay, so
hold on, one more. Or like in the Lion King when the boy gets sat on by that rhino.
Oh yeah.
Beg my pardon, but get off.
I remember that. Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. That's some funny stuff. Oh man. Okay,
so so it can take a while to get the plane off the ground for just checking stuff. So you'd think that the pilot would have been making sure that all this stuff is good before they take off. I mean, there's a possibility that they can miss some things that could go wrong. I mean, they can't check the engine, like, open it up and see, oh, wow, look, this piece is coming loose, They can't see every little piece. You know what I mean?
Is that like a car?
Yeah, they can't just open the hood. Yeah. Oh, look, there's people in here.
That'll be the cargo hold, sir.
Yep, this is screwed up. There's a whole bunch of people in here. Get them out.
This is screwed up. Timmy, were you hiding the cargo hold again?
So, the next theory is that, and
this is also kind of a realistic one.
Yeah, is that it was a suicide attempt by the pilot. Now,
suicide attempt / terrorist attack.
Yeah, / terrorist attack. It depends how you look at it, really.
Yeah.
Because a suicide attempt is normally...
We did bring up suicide, first of all, in the Logan Paul podcast, so we've talked about this before, so this is not new to us to talk about.
Yeah, and we never mentioned in the suicide podcast, when you commit suicide, a whole bunch of other people get killed with you. No, that's not how suicide works. Normally. Yeah. And that's the thing. When you commit suicide, you don't normally take people with you.
Yeah.
And that's considered terrorism, depending how it is, how many people is there, and what your
I would
meaning behind doing that type of thing is.
If the pilots did crash this plane, no matter the reason, I would almost certainly call this terrorism.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of signs that point to the pilots actually purposely bringing the plane down.
Hijacking it. Well, should we call it a hijacking since it wasn't like...
Because it's not like a passenger, got a hold of the plane. But you never know. A passenger could have knocked the pilots out.
Yeah.
That's why there was mumbling. Maybe they could have stabbed them.
Like in Flight 93 when they were taking back the plane, yeah.
You okay.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned in part 1.
Oh, yeah.
There was, they contacted the plane.
Switched it off.
They only heard mumbling and some static.
And then the transponder switched off.
Yeah.
That's what happened in Flight 93, remember? When the terrorists turned off the transponder.
Mm-hmm.
He was uttering some weird language to his, well, not weird language, it was Arabic, but he was talking in Arabic to his co-pilot, and they switched the transponder off, so that could have happened, yeah.
We don't know. That was something I actually didn't think about when we were talking on the phone, was the possibility of a passenger taking over. Because, think about it, you got all these people from different countries. They're all in all different cultures on one plane.
Yeah.
What if, you don't know what type of people you have on that plane?
There were 2 people from Iran.
Yeah.
And...
I mean, not to be racist or anything, but that's...
We forgot to mention the passports, remember? The passports, there was something wrong with them, remember?
Was
they
there?
had fake passports, remember?
They did?
Yeah, they were immigrants, remember? They were immigrants, remember? They were immigrants, don't you remember?
No, I don't remember that.
There were reported 2 Iran people on the plane that were immigrants. They had fake passports. But they said they can... The governments of the world confirmed that they weren't planning to bring the plane down, but I'm not so sure now. There were 2 people with fake passports, which I don't know how they determined that, but I mean...
Yeah, so...
Probably looking through the records. Probably, yeah, but...
So it very well could have been...
A passenger hijacking
the plane, or a pilot committing suicide, but that would technically be an act of terrorism.
Too, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
So...
But do you think both pilots would? I mean...
I think that they would have to... You would think that they would have to both be on board with it. Because, think about it. Yeah, literally. But you would think that...
oh, man.
Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. You would think...
You would think, ha 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 ha.
You would think that the co-pilot... Say the pilot was trying to bring down the plane. You would think the co-pilot would punch him in the face and say, "Hey, you can't do this."
Break his nose.
And do something. Unless the co-pilot actually did fight back, and then the pilot knocked the co-pilot out and continued to do the suicide attempt or the terrorist attack.
Yeah.
And another thing is, if it was a terrorist attack, they turned around.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means that they could have been like, "Oh crap, we missed the spot we were trying to hit."
No. It was heading toward its destination before it turned around, dude. You gotta remember that. It didn't say anything about it not still being on course to its destination. When it turned around, it was changing the path. It was changing the path from its destination flight. You know what I mean? So that's what that was. So that was planned, probably, if it was a terrorist attack. I mean, and it did go off military radar. Which means... if you're a terrorist, you want to avoid it. Military radar, right? I mean, you want to avoid that. To not have F-16s fly after you and shoot you down.
Yeah, and plus you don't know. You would think that it wouldn't be just a regular citizen that just took over the plane.
No, they would
because they wouldn't be knowledgeable with this type of information to avoid
how to fly a plane.
This would be that and how to avoid radar. Like the pilots, it had to be somebody that knew how to avoid the detection by radar. It had to be. So that would point to the pilots. It would still point to the pilots, not to somebody just on the flight.
Nope.
I don't think so.
What happened on 9/11? What did they do before they boarded the plane? They trained in the flight simulators, right?
Yeah.
They got flown up by people. They got a flight license.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what happened. If it was a passenger, they got a flight license like the hijackers on 9/11 did. They got a flight license,
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they were able to know how to fly a plane. I mean, and they probably trained a little bit in, computer science, and for the radar stuff, and that's how they were able to, avoid radar. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Maybe it was a former Malaysian soldier going crazy. I don't know.
It's kind of it's scary to think about.
Yeah.
But so
I mean, you are right, Joe. It is way too
complicated,
suspicious to just be an accident.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm not saying that you're wrong, Aiden, about it being some person that was on the flight.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it had to be a pilot or the co-pilot.
Yeah.
Because, like you mentioned, in 9/11, they were trained to fly a plane.
They got a flight license, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm just saying, whether it was a pilot or not, it had to be somebody that was knowledgeable about it.
How to fly a plane, yeah.
Yeah.
They
So,
had to know.
it could have been the pilot, or it could have been somebody that was, just a regular passenger.
Maybe even a former fighter pilot.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, someone that
Could have
was in the
been,
Malaysian Air Force, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so what's the next theory?
So, the next one is like a smaller one here. It's the crash was made up by the world's government.
We can shoot that one down pretty quick. I don't think that...
No, because...
We have to brief from the plane.
Because here's the thing. If it was made up by the world's governments, you would think that they would not all work together like that, right?
Yeah.
Why would 11 countries work together to try to find and spend money on something that's not even true?
$1 billion, yeah. Just like
That's a waste of money.
That's like the flat earthers in the moon landing.
Yeah,
people
like faking the moon landing, you know?
Come on. That's all I need to say for that. That's like
that's not even like worthy to talk about for 5-6 minutes.
Yeah. No, this one is though. This one is really interesting.
Which actually we might want to push that into part 3.
Yeah,
so
okay.
just so then we have enough time to talk about it.
Yes.
And so yeah, we're going to continue into part 3 for the last 2 theories on our list. And if we happen to think about another theory that we'd like to mention that we didn't have on here, we might.
It.
So, yeah.
This has been part 2 of All 3 of the podcast, guys. See ya.
See ya.